And Grant, you're on.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you to everybody for taking the time to join us today. And my name is Grant Griebel. I'm a solutions engineer with the Sage Fixed Assets team. We're going to take some time today to walk through the dangers of using Excel for fixed asset management, as well as some of the benefits of having an integrated solution between fixed asset management and your ERP solution. Joining me today is CPA and Tandem partner Al Casiello, located in the Virginia office, who's going to briefly talk about changes in the Section 179. Al, are you with us and ready? Oh, did we lose Al?
Sorry, I had you on mute. Yes, I am here.
All right, Al. Well, I will go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thanks, Grant. Under the Protecting Americans from Tax Hikes Act, which is called PATH, of 2015, the maximum Section 179 expense deduction of up to $500,000 was restored retroactively and made permanent. And I do want to make an excuse for my voice. I do have a cold and a sore throat, so bear with me if you mind. As you're probably well aware, Section 179 provides a current expensing deduction for qualified businesses, property placed in service during the year instead of depreciating the asset over a number of years. The Section 179 expense deduction limitation had gradually fluctuated over the past years from a modest $25,000 figure to its lawfully perched at $500,000. And when this higher allowance officially was expected to expire after 2014, it was scheduled to plummet all the way back to the $25,000 limit in 2015. Congress recently passed this new law and restored the maximum limit permanently. I guess that's until another law is passed. Next slide, please. Also, the allowable bonus depreciation had been extended with this new law. Typical assets that qualify for this Section 179 deduction consist of machinery, equipment, tools, and computer hardware and software. The real benefit comes when a business finances these purchases over an extended period of time with minimal initial cash outlay and getting the tax deduction for the full amount in the year of purchase. Lease financing, even with a dollar buyout at the end of the lease, will qualify for this deduction. A typical asset for small business owners that qualify for this deduction would be a truck with a 6-foot bed or less, or an SUV that weighs over 6,000 pounds. If anyone has any questions on Section 179, feel free to email us after the webinar at the emails listed. Grant, I'm sure everyone is anxious to hear about the fixed asset software solution, so I'm turning it back over to you.
Well, thanks, Al. And on that note, there are a few questions that I hope to answer in today's presentation. What is the cost of maintaining your fixed assets without a dedicated solution? What are the benefits of integrating your fixed asset solution to your ERP? And finally, what does that integration look like? And to answer these questions, we're going to cover the following in today's discussion: the cost of spreadsheets, the benefits of an integrated fixed asset solution, and finally, we'll actually take a walkthrough at the integration between Sage Fixed Assets and Sage 300. So let's start with spreadsheet dangers. If you don't have a dedicated fixed asset software solution, there's a very good chance you're managing assets by hand in Excel. So what do I mean by spreadsheet dangers? Well, spreadsheets are a common starting point for most businesses to begin managing their fixed assets. However, as time goes on and your growing business's needs expand, you add additional employees, the federal tax code continues to become more complex, and all of the dangers of using Excel become more and more apparent until it becomes a stressful source of major business challenges. Data control and integrity is difficult to maintain if you're managing your fixed assets in a spreadsheet. Keeping spreadsheets up to date can start as a simple process, but then quickly grow into a time-consuming burden, as they don't scale well with growing businesses. And as your business's needs expand, spreadsheets become more complex, using various formulas and cell dependencies so you can work with your data. Unfortunately, often this leads to one or two individuals being the spreadsheet knowledge holder, and if those people leave the business and take that knowledge with them, it can have some pretty major impacts on productivity. Additionally, spreadsheets allow the problem of version control to surface. If you're currently managing multiple spreadsheets, this might be something you felt personally. If there's multiple spreadsheets, consolidation and deduplication of data on each of those spreadsheets to do reporting can end up taking more time than entering the data did in the first place. And finally, spreadsheets offer minimal security access and data entry control options, which can open the door to dirty data due to a lack of control. Now, I want to take a moment to talk a bit more about that final point on data integrity. The more manual processes involved in your fixed asset management, the larger the chance for bad data to enter into your asset information due to human error. This bad data leads to bad reports, and bad reports mean bad strategic business decisions. Next, if you don't have accurate asset counts and values, you may be overpaying on taxes and property insurance. Additionally, if you have bad asset counts, you might find that you don't have a business-critical asset on hand when it's actually needed. And finally, while clean data is your best friend and shield if auditors come knocking, dirty data can be your worst enemy. Long story short, the lack of control and data integrity offered by spreadsheets is downright dangerous. A study by Tuck's School of Business found that in a selection of audited spreadsheets, 64% had errors, 7 of which exceeded $10 million. The Asset Management Resources Group has been assisting their clients' asset accounting efforts since 1989. Their research shows that 65% of fixed asset data is incomplete, inaccurate, or altogether missing, while 10 to 30% of fixed assets on the books are no longer owned. And finally, it was found that up to 90% of all spreadsheets tested suffer from at least one major user error. And none of the tests included spreadsheets with more than 200 line items, where the probability of error approaches 100%. So think about how many line items are on the spreadsheets you're currently managing, and how close are you getting to that 200 number. Let's look at some real-world examples of the dangers of spreadsheets in action, beginning with Eastman Kodak. Kodak was forced to restate their financial reports for 2 whole quarters due to a bad spreadsheet. Similarly, Red Envelope needed to have their shares ended up having their shares tumble, 25% after they were forced to adjust their fourth quarter outlook due to a budgeting error resulting from a bad spreadsheet. So how can Sage Fixed Assets help you eliminate the risk of spreadsheets? First and foremost, by putting checks and balances on data entry. Anytime manual data processes are used to manipulate your information, you run the risk of letting bad data into your asset registry due to human error. Sage's depreciation solution enables you to control the human factor, maintaining data integrity and saving time by automating processes. So, in addition to baked-in tax laws and depreciation calculations, Sage's depreciation solution allows you to customize fields to not only meet your needs in regards to data, but also controlling if a field is required and must be completed for a new asset to be created. So if you have current spreadsheets with holes in your asset information because there's no controls, you can make that a thing of the past. You can also put entry masks on top of fields to limit the number and type of characters that can be entered into any field within the system. You can create smart lists to further control data entry by predefining a drop-down list of selections for any field, removing the chance of typos entirely. And finally, our group and user permission structure allows you to control both what asset data users can see and what they can or cannot do when interacting with it. The smart list, especially if you're using Excel, can be very handy. If you have more than one person working on the same spreadsheet and they use different terminology, you're going to put a lot of work and effort going back and cleaning up that data. Now, in addition to ensuring that you have clean and accurate asset information, Sage's depreciation solution allows you to bring your fixed asset management in-house, providing better control at less cost compared to outsourcing. Also, we take care of all the tax updates for you. No need to have an internal CPA dedicated to maintaining asset compliance when we can take care of it. On that note, the Section 179 that Al was just talking about, our new update is going to allow you to retroactively apply that to all of the assets within the software. Now, if you have a spreadsheet, you might be thinking to yourself, I've got to go back and manually make that adjustment to every single asset in the system. With our solution, it's a few clicks of a button. We also surveyed our current depreciation users to ask them what their main reasons for implementing a fixed asset software solution were, as well as the benefits they found once that solution was in place. As you can see, the main reasons for bringing the solution in were to make the depreciation process easier and ensure tax compliance. After implementing the solution, customers found that they both saved time on their reporting processes and gained confidence in the compliance of their numbers. We also asked our customers, how long did it take them to realize a return on investment after implementing Sage Fixed Assets? As you can see, 71% realized a return in less than 3 months. I think this quote from one of our customers sums it up best. We'd previously been using Excel spreadsheets, which was more time-consuming and had more potential for depreciation calculation errors. Sage Fixed Assets creates our journal entries automatically, and assets are very easy to input and keep track of. Reporting for period end and year end is quick and easy as well. You can see these survey results and more customer quotes by going to techvalidate.com and searching for Sage Fixed Assets. All right, so we spent a good amount of time talking about the depreciation process and its challenges. So what are the benefits of integrating your fixed asset solution into your ERP solution? Well, first, let's take a look at the Sage ERP environment. As you can see, many of the Sage ERPs do not have a fixed asset module provided out of the box. Thankfully, Sage's depreciation solution offers out-of-the-box integrations back to the ERP solution in order to facilitate the creation of new assets from the ERP's accounts payable purchase order system, as well as automatically moving depreciation general ledger entries from Sage Fixed Assets back into the ERP's general ledger. The shot you're seeing here shows a quick listing of all the different out-of-box integrations that are provided. If you have any specific questions, we can certainly cover those in more detail in a one-on-one situation. So what does this mean to you? Well, let's look at how the process flows when it's not integrated. Without integrated solutions, there are a large number of manual processes needed to create new assets from accounts payable, as well as getting GL information back into the ERP. And as we've discussed, anytime a manual process involving data is required, you open the door to dirty data. Additionally, these manual processes end up taking more time from your people that could be otherwise spent on more pressing issues. Without integration, the only things that are going to be automated are purchasing of assets within the ERP system and depreciation within fixed assets. Otherwise, you're manually exporting new assets out to Excel, formatting that data, importing it into the fixed asset solution in order to calculate the GL entries, which then also have to be manually exported, formatted, and re-imported. So what if you could automate most of that? That's what we can do with these built-in integrations. When your depreciation solution is integrated to your ERP, new asset data and GL entries can flow freely between both solutions. Not only does this free up time that would otherwise be spent manually managing these processes, but automation removes the human factor, ensuring that your data is accurate and error-free. So let's go ahead and take a look at this integration in action. So this is the Sage Fixed Assets solution. I'm first going to walk you through what the GL integration looks like. In order to start this integration, we first actually have to calculate depreciation. Within the fixed asset solution, calculating depreciation not only gets you your depreciation expense report and other figures, but also the general ledger entries are calculated at the same time. Calculate depreciation for 1 month, you'll get GL entries for 1 month. If you want to wait until the end of the half and calculate depreciation for a 6-month period, you'll get GL entries for that 6-month period. So we're going to go ahead and calculate depreciation for a month on our tax and internal books, which is going to give us our depreciation expense report, but more importantly for this demonstration, is going to give us the general ledger debits and credits we need to pass back into Sage 300's general ledger. And we do use crystal reports as the reporting structure for the fixed asset solution. So this depreciation expense report is in crystal, but like I said, we're not going to look at that today. What's more important is looking at this integration between the GLs. In order to start it, we're going to go to the links dropdown and choose the Sage 300 depreciation link. We'll have to close the company within Sage Fixed Assets first in order to make this happen. Once we do, it's going to bring up our integration interface. We can choose which company within the Sage Fixed Asset solution we'd like these general ledger entries to come from. We can choose which group within that company. So you don't have to send GLs from all of your assets. If there's a specific set of assets that you want to send them over from, you can use a group to define that. We're going to go ahead and do it for all of our assets, and we're going to send these GLs based off of the tax book for all of those assets. Now we have to go ahead and note the GL posting date and the journal entry date. And what this is going to do is allow the system to look at the date for these GL entries. It's going to end up being one of the last days of the month because we have to calculate depreciation through to one of those 12 financial periods, unless you're using the Premier version and have some alternate accounting set up. In this case, though, we're going to go ahead and set these up. And I'm using some dates that match back to the ERP sample data, which is why it's a little bit further out in the future there. We also need to enter a reference number. This will allow us to identify the batch of GL entries from the Sage 300 side. Once we've entered all this information in, we can go ahead and click on Preview. And this is going to give us a quick glance at what those debits and credits are going to look like. So we can review this to make sure that these calculations meet our expectations. Assuming that they do, we can go back into the software, pull the integration interface back up, and you'll see the ability to post these GL entries is now highlighted. So assuming that we looked at the numbers in the preview and they met our expectations, we'll go ahead and click on Post. Now, if you have security set up within Sage 300, you're going to have to log in. In addition, you're going to have to choose the company within the Sage 300 side that you'd like these general ledger entries to flow into. We're going to send them into a sample company. We have to note some posting parameters here as well. The source ledger is going to be the general ledger. The source type is going to be a journal entry. We've set the fiscal year and fiscal period, and now we can send the entries along. We'll get a quick notice letting us know that they were successfully sent to Sage 300, as well as giving us the batch ID. So now we'll go ahead and open up the Sage 300 interface. We're already in the general ledger section of Sage 300, so we're going to go down to the GL transactions and look at our batch list. The most recent entry here, number 216, is the depreciation expense, the credits and debits that we sent over from Sage Fixed Assets. Now, this is pending, so we can go ahead and review it, mark that it's ready to post, assuming that all of the numbers meet our expectations and everything looks good. And we can see those debits and credits from the preview represented here as well. So we can go ahead and then post those entries. Now we're going to take a look at creating assets from the accounts payable or purchase order section of Sage 300. The first step of creating an asset through this integration is, well, entering an invoice for that new asset, just like you usually would for any purchases through the accounts payable section. So we're going to go ahead and create a new invoice here. We'll have to note the vendor and a few other required bits of information, just like you usually would be including here if you were adding an asset, or excuse me, adding an invoice. We're going to note that this is the GL account tying back to assets, the amount, and the description.
I can check, but I think it's already been initiated. They may be able to
now,
stop it
when you set up this integration, you're going to notice an extra checkbox here that was not there before. And this is where you can note that an invoice relates back to a fixed asset. So once we check that box, we get a whole new interface here that we can note which template we want to apply. We can note the description of the asset, the company within Sage Fixed Assets we want the new asset to flow into, the quantity of these assets. In this case, we've only got one couch. The unit of measurement, again, just one. And then finally, the value of the fixed asset. It's going to be the $3,000 that was on the invoice. Now, we're only going to walk through one invoice example here, but you could have 10, 20, 100, 1,000 invoices in the APPO section of Sage 300 that you can then go ahead and create assets from. Now, we're just going to do one for the sake of demonstration here. So we're going to add our completed invoice that's already set up to be identified as a fixed asset. So we'll see that invoice is here. We're going to go ahead and post it. So now that the invoice is posted, the next step is to create assets. This function could be run manually, or it could be scheduled to run automatically every day, every week, every month. So we can see one asset was created with no errors, and that the create assets function was completed. So now we're going to swap back to the fixed asset side to take a look at that created asset. Now, only so much information flows over from the invoice. It doesn't have any depreciable information on it. So baking that depreciable basis into the templates within depreciation is what's going to allow you to complete that record as it flows over. Without a template, you're going to get some bare bones information, like you'll see here. The description, placed in service date, acquisition value, but no property type, depreciation method, or estimated life. And all of those can be baked in using those templates that you apply in the AP section of Sage 300. But we could also come in here and manually fill them out as needed. So I know that's quite a bit of information that we covered today, both looking at the dangers of Excel spreadsheets and reviewing some of the built-in integrations between Sage Fixed Assets and the Sage suite of enterprise reporting and planning platforms, the ERP solutions. And with that, we'd like to open it up to any questions that people might have.
Nobody has any questions?
So, Grant, I'll ask a question that people might be thinking. Sage Fixed Asset, is it version related to Sage 300, 2012, 2014, or 2016, or Fixed Asset knows enough to talk to the common database?
Generally speaking? Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Was there more?
This was Dennis, and I was just asking a question that people probably will be thinking that, do I need a certain version of Fixed Asset for my certain version of Sage if I have Sage 2012, 2014, or 2016C?
Yeah, generally speaking, you're going to want to make sure that they are both the same version. So you're going to want to keep both sides of that equation up to date with the most recent updates because they are tested every time a new update comes out.
Can people who are on an older version of Sage 300 2012 still purchase Fixed Asset that will be compatible for their version?
Possible. Generally speaking, they don't test more than 2 to 3 years back because that's the way our customer portal works. You know, we always maintain the most recent release and then the 2 prior releases. So once you go outside of that range, no guarantees. But generally speaking, the current release and the 2 prior ones are going to work for you. But you can always just download the updates for your ERP solution as well to make sure that it's up to date, and then you'll be able to work with whatever release Fixed Assets is currently on.
Well, I don't think if anybody's got any more questions, we can let people get back to their day a little bit earlier. I do want to let you know that for attending the seminar today, that Tandem Technologies will be providing you with a 20% discount off of the Sage Fixed Asset solution. Now, that is only off of the product. That is not off of the business care that is included. So our information, Grant has up there on the screen, and if you know phone numbers to your consultant, feel free to give them a call and reach out to them personally. So Grant and Ashley, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and Al, thank you too. I know you've been suffering with a cold, so I'm glad it paused long enough for you to be able to be on the webinar with us today. And thank all of our clients for attending.
Absolutely. And if there's any questions on the Sage Fixed Asset side of things, please don't hesitate to reach out. Always happy to answer questions or talk about your unique challenges. It was great speaking today, and if there's anything else that we can do, please don't hesitate to let us know.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sounds great.
Thank you.